Hey, Heal Squad. One of the members had a question, so I wanted to answer it. She asked, how do we deal with our children absent parent father when our children are longing for that parent and that parent refuses to be a part of the child's life? I would love how to understand and deal with this. Um, so I've faced this two ways, right? As a clinician, I've seen this, but also as a single mother, I've seen this as well. And so this was kind of on my mind even this morning. I read it yesterday, but it was on my mind. So I don't know if this Hill Squad member, I don't know if you have daughters, or if you have a daughter, or if you have sons, but I'm just going to share with you what I've done as it relates to raising my son as a single mom. You know, when he was young, I made the decision to put him in an all-boys school. And so we lived in Columbus, Georgia at the time. So he went to Emmanuel Prep, shout out to them, when he was 4 years old. And what I have done with my son is I've been intentional to have him around strong men. There's not currently a man in the house because I'm not married, but I've done my very best to have him around strong men and men that will show up as a father for him, that will pour into him. Okay. So that's the first thing I would do as it relates to your children, especially if you have a son. Try to find environments where there are strong men and you respect those men, right? Because you don't need anybody pouring into your child. And you respect those men and you trust those men. My son has had many men who have shown up for him in such a magnificent way. And those men also support me in my being a mom, right? They are the ones that say, are you doing your homework? Are you paying attention in school? Make sure you are listening to your mom. Make sure you are respecting her. They talk to him about manhood and what it means to be a man and what it means to show up as a man. And so I am grateful for that. Now we've moved from Columbus, so he goes to a different school. But there he's had male teachers, right? So it's very important because that's something that he desires. I think if you have a daughter, right, of course that will look a little bit differently because you want to be mindful about who has access to her, okay? And I'm not saying you protect your daughters differently than your sons. You protect all of your children, but I think it looks very different because usually when you have a daughter and they are in sports and things like that, they have a female coach. When you have a son, they can have a male coach and have that male interaction. Another thing that I have done is being intentional about speaking life into that area. Well, you don't want to be created because of the absence of a father. You don't want there to be self-esteem issues as it relates to self-worth, issues as it relates to rejection, issues as it relates to abandonment. You don't want those things. And so you can look for therapy for your child so they can have a space where they are able to process and discuss how this makes them feel. As a mother, I speak to my son about his worth and his value. I compliment him. I affirm him. I speak life into him. I let him know that just because his father has decided to show up in a certain way has nothing to do with him. He's great. He's excellent, right? And ultimately, it's that parent that will miss out. In this society, there is a lot of negative talk about single mothers. There's not enough communication. There's not enough talk as it relates to absent fathers. And there should be conversations around that. And I think that men have to hold men accountable who aren't present in their child's life. Why would you not want to do that? And even the conversation I see sometimes as it relates to, she won't let me see my children. That's what a court is for. Okay. But those are the things that I do as it relates to supporting my son or even children that I used to do therapy with when one parent is not present. But I think the most important thing is to really focus on as it relates to abandonment and rejection. You want to address that head on. You don't want your child thinking that they're less than or thinking that there's something wrong with them. Children are very self-centered, especially when they're young. When they look in their environment and they see there's something is not right, they internalize it as if there's something wrong with them or they've done something. And you want your children to know without a shadow of a doubt that they have done nothing wrong, that their parent is making a decision not to be present, but not allow that to turn into bitterness, and to work with them on that and to have spaces and places where they can get what they need as it relates to male structure and male attention and men to speak life into them. You know, it may be an uncle. My grandfather has been wonderful in helping me, especially this past year, as it relates to me going through treatment. My son has had a male teacher last year, and so I shared that I was going through breast cancer, and he helped him. There's other men at my son's school that speak life into him. He's had coaches that speak life. He's had his barber speak life and check on him. And so he has many. When one, and let me tell you this, because I even told my son this, when one is not present, God will send many. He will send many. And I know as a mom, it may break your heart because you see the goodness in your children. You see how spectacular they are. You see how amazing they are. And you may think to yourself, how can a man miss out on this? How can he not want to be present for his children? But that's not your business. You're responsible for the relationship you have with your child. That's when you meet the Lord in the air, that's what you're going to give account to, the relationship you have. Okay. Years ago, I had made a decision. Now, this may be controversial for some folks. Years ago, I made a decision that I am not going to work for the father to have the relationship with my son. I'm not going to do that. And the reason why I'm not going to do that is because I was expending so much energy there and not respecting how they wanted to show up. And that's the thing. We as a mother, there's so much shame and so much responsibility placed on us that when a man decides that he's not going to show up in a healthy way, society will blame you. And now you're internalizing his behavior. No, he makes the decision on whether he's going to show up or not. You make the decision on how you're going to show up as a mother. If he calls, he calls. If he doesn't show up, he doesn't show up. Eventually, your children are going to make a decision on what that relationship looks like. And I don't know how old your children are, but eventually they're going to make a decision. And when they make a decision, then that person, the father, will have to deal with it with whatever consequences come with their deciding to be absent. Right? But you as a mother, don't internalize it. You as a mother understand that your role is to raise your children and to create the best environment for them. And don't allow society or anyone else to shame you. God gave you those children. He assigned those children specifically to you, knowing what the father would be absent or knowing that the father would be present. I remember hearing Keon Henderson one time talking about absent fathers, and he said this, and to me, I was like, that, okay, I received that. He was like, sometimes God, not sometimes God, but the absence of a person sometimes is better than the presence of them. And sometimes the absence of a person is the protection of your children. Because we have to be honest, some men don't show up well as fathers. They don't. And some men have to be honest about that as well. And they need to talk to their friends when they see their friends aren't present for their children. Hey man, you need to go be present in your kid's life. You need to take care of your sons and your daughters. Why would you have your son and your daughter out here and you don't check on them? You don't call them. You don't make sure they have what they need. Do you know what size shoe your kids wear? Why aren't you at their baseball game? Why aren't you at their football game? Why aren't you at the school with them? So this is just what I would encourage you to do. But you have to, I know it hurts as a single mom and the father isn't present. I know it does. But you seek therapy, right? To address that, to address if there's any regret that you have, because sometimes that can be present. You address how it impacts you. But you raise your kids and you do a very good job at it. And you don't concern yourself with what anyone has to say. There's a lot of blaming of women when they are single parent. They will tell you to pick you should have picked someone better, but don't internalize that. But do what you have to do to take care of your kids. Get them what they need to ensure that when they grow up, they aren't injured by the absence of the parent. Single mothers can raise well-rounded, whole, and healthy children. And don't let anybody convince you otherwise. I don't care what the statistics say about single mothers. I don't care about what the statistics say about Black single mothers. We raise phenomenal children. We raise exceptional children. We raise children that are going to do exceptionally well. We raise children that are innovators. We raise children that do amazing things. And you have to know that. But you're doing the work of two, but God has graced you to be able to do that. And that's what they won't tell you as it relates to being a single mother. There are women out there choosing to be single mothers because they want to be a mother. God will grace you for that, and he will grace your children. And I've even told my son, I said, when you get older, this place right here may be a place of ministry for you. So when you get older and you take your children to school and you see that there's a little boy whose father may not be as present, you can speak life into that child because you know and you understand. But also be sure that when you have your children, that you are present with them. Okay? So I hope this encourages you. I hope this also answers your question. Listen, being healed means you parent differently. And sometimes when you had your children, you were in that season you were a certain type of woman, but in this season you're a new woman. And don't allow who you are today and who you're becoming to be impacted by the decisions that you made in the past. You can write some of the decisions now. It just looks differently. It means that you do your work and you ensure that your children have what they need to be successful, and they will be successful. Your children can have multiple scholarships. They can go to Yale, they can go to Harvard, they can go to NYU. Your children can find the cure of cancer or any other disease. Your children can have their own AI company. Just because they are being raised in a single parent home and just because their father is deciding to be absent doesn't mean that greatness is not assigned to them. And so you have to remind yourself that, and you have to know that, and you have to move in that way. Listen, I told my son great things are going to happen from you and to you, and I believe that. The situation that's going on, that's occurring, listen, this doesn't define who you are. This doesn't define what all the things that are available to you. You have first the Lord in heaven. That's your Father. And then he will send men in the earth to speak life to you, to mentor you, to grow you, to help you to be disciplined. Okay? So I hope this answers your question. Let me know down below in the comments if you're a single mom and you are going through this same situation. Encourage our sister and let her know that things are going to be okay. Let her know that her children are going to be successful, and let her know about the healthy relationships that your children may have and how God sent men to help raise your children and to speak life into them. Also, I know Tony Gaskins, again, I don't know if you have a son or a daughter, but Tony Gaskins has a program on his TonyGaskins.com, TonyGaskinsAcademy.com, I think it is, for boys. Videos specifically for boys. I think there's a certain age group. But as moms, we just have to be innovative. And if you are a single mom, you already are. But pray over your children, speak life to them, speak life to that area, speak life to their self-esteem, and they're going to grow up magnificently. They're going to grow up magnificently. And you remember in that movie, I forget what it was, but it had, what's her name? I can see her face. She played Tina Turner. Angela Bassett, right? Had Angela Bassett. And her son was Lance. What's his name? Lance, I forget his name. And he went to sign for a scholarship or with the NBA or whatever. The dad wanted to show up then. That's how it was going to be. He was like, okay, yeah, but my mama did this. And also as a mom, let me tell you this. I want you as a single mom to encourage yourself, because there are many famous people that were raised by single moms. I think of Cedric the Entertainer, right? Cedric the Entertainer was raised by a single mom. There are many people, many successful people that are raised by single mothers. And let me tell you this. I'll tell you this story. I've had two men. They're both names are Frank, which is crazy. I've had two men whose name Frank, raised by single moms, who've been a great blessing to me. The first Frank, he is a realtor in Phoenix City, Alabama, Phoenix City and Columbus, Georgia. Columbus, Georgia and Phoenix City, Alabama. So he has license in both, right? And so if you know him, his name is Frank. Let me see if I can find his name. So y'all can give him a shout out for me, because he helped this single mom. When I was Walden, his name is Frank Walden. So if you need a realtor in Columbus, Georgia, or Phoenix City, Alabama. His name is Frank Walden. You go see Frank Walden because he took care of this single mom. It was during the pandemic. I had lost my job and I told the Lord I didn't want to work for anybody. So I started a business and I needed a physical location for insurance companies. When you are paneled with insurance, at that time you needed a physical location. And so I went to this location on the north side of Columbus. If you know anything about Columbus, I went on the north side of Columbus off of Armour Road. And Mr. Walden was well, I didn't know he was going to be the realtor, but he was, right? So I get there and he taught me about negotiating as it relates to the lease, right? So I did a 3-year lease and it progressively increased as it relates to the rent. I didn't know anything about that. I remember, later on, my rent was late, like it was late one time, and he called me and he worked with me, right? And he later shared with me, that he was raised he was raised in a single parent home, and he was a white man, right? So he was raised in a single parent home, and I appreciated him working with me like that. And then years later, I moved here to Atlanta, and another Frank that I work with, was raised by a single mom. And so when he sees my son, he encourages him, make sure you listen to your mom, make sure you do what she needs you to do, right? And so they have been a blessing to me. God will send men as it relates to your children. He's not sending those men necessarily for you, right? He's sending those men because he knows what your children need. And his word says he will supply all of our needs. And he knows that your children have a need. He knows your children have a need. And I needed that building in order to provide for my son, right? But there was even times during the pandemic, I had called the founder of the school and said, hey, I've lost my job. And I was getting a scholarship, right? I was getting a scholarship for my son to go to the school. He said, okay, you continue to pay this amount for the scholarship and we'll just keep it that way. God will do it for you. And he gonna do it for your children. There are going to be men that come and favor your kids. There are going to be men that come and pour into your kids in a way. And I know in the society we live in, like people are skeptical because of the things that happen, but God going to keep your kids safe. He will. So I just wanted to share that. I was supposed to be closing, but then that came to me. God going to send men to bless you. There have been men, Gabriel's barber has purchased school uniforms for him. Times I would go to get his haircut. He would say, no, don't worry about it. Like cut his hair for free, like be there for birthdays. Oh, it's your birthday, get the kids birthday gifts. And guess what? These are not men I slept with. Let me go ahead and say that. These are not men. No, these are men that my son needed and God provided an answer. Okay. So I plan on doing a family series. If you have questions, I know some of you have provided or asked questions as it relates to your moms. And so I'm going to answer those questions. But any other relationship that you need some answers about, just like this Heal Squad member did, just put it in the comments and I'll see it. If I don't thumbs up or heart your comment, that's because I'm saving it on my end so that I can come and make a video later. Because what happens when I do a thumbs up and I heart it, then it moves it so I can't see it on the back end. So if you're like, Cynthia respond to all these comments, but she ain't responding to mine, it could be because of that or because you said something sideways and I blocked you. All right. Well, this is Heal the New Sexy. My name is Cynthia.